Hi, everybody. You just caught Nancy and I in the end of a conversation that's really appropriate to the subject that we're talking about. Um, I am so delighted to have Nancy here. Nancy Rynes is someone I met via uh, I guess you'd say the internet. I watched a video of hers in which she described her near-death experience, I'm so familiar with them. I'm so familiar with them. I don't know why. I hit hers to listen to it, but I was so incredibly impressed. I was so impressed that I tracked her down. I tracked her down, and I said, "I have to meet you." And one thing led to another. And out of the conversations we've had and her remarkable experience, I said, "This has got to become a class. I have to bring this to everybody because the content of her experience is so incredibly rich." So let me preface this by saying um, that I've had decades of familiarity with near death experiences. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with them in some way or another. And there's a pattern to them. So I could almost say there's an archetypal pattern to near death experiences because they become universal in a sense. And what is fascinating to me is how many people who are atheists or agnostics, drug users, addicts, in other words, unconscious spiritually, are the ones that are chosen to have these profound experiences. It's not people who are, I never hear about nuns having near death experiences or people who are lifetime deep believers, right? It's they're bypassed. And it's like these people are selected who have absolutely no consciousness, no life in prayer, no nothing. And 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 have lived one woman I heard her near death experience. She was a avid drug user for 25 years. And now she's a servant to others, getting them off drugs. I mean, anyway, it's as if this near-death experience is a contemporary way that heaven reaches out and drafts people into a state of consciousness that they would otherwise never, ever have reached for themselves. That's number one. And then part two of this archetypal experience is that they are told in some way that they need to be messengers of what they've experienced, that this wasn't a waste of time, that this wasn't just one of those experiences, that what they've been told on the other side needs to be brought back to people on this side. That is something I deeply believe, having gone through hundreds and hundreds of near-death experiences for 40 years. I now see that even the quality and the content of the messages are so similar that all of these people can't be drinking Kool-Aid, that somehow they have experienced something. And to that, let me say this, that it's not a religious message. It's not about religion. It's not about, get thee to church. It's nothing. That has nothing to do with religion. And for years and years and years, I have taught that there is not a God that has a religion in this universe, that you're free to have one. But when you have a transcendent experience, just like I noticed in my mystical studies, that when people have profound mystical experiences like Teresa of Avila, Francis of Assisi, they don't come back and tell people, you better go and become Catholics, you better go. It's not, they become transcendent, not more focused, not more fundamentalist. They become cosmologists. They become cosmically focused. They brush off all the tentacles of the earth and become cosmically focused. And so I'm going to open this up. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well.
I'm so happy to be here doing this with you. It warms my heart that you reached out to me that day back, a few months ago. And I'm still kind of in shock that we're talking, but it's a good state of shock. And I'm so glad that we're able to connect and share this message with other people who otherwise, might not have run across someone like me. So I'm just glad to be here with you. Yeah.
And like I was saying, when you had your near-death experience, you too were would say agnostic. Was that fair?
Yeah, I was kind of going back and forth between I don't believe that there's anything at all, which is the atheist, or maybe there's something, but I'm not sure what it is, which is the agnostic. So it's safe to say definitely agnostic, definitely non-religious for sure.
Right, right,
I
right.
wasn't cued into a specific religious ideology.
Right, right. And so when you had your near-death experience, which was brought about by a car accident hitting you when you were on a bicycle,
Yeah.
and then you had surgery and you died on the surgical table
Yeah.
as a result of your injuries, you found yourself quite alive consciously, but
Yeah.
not in your body. And
Yeah.
what is characteristic is how many people say, "Where am I?" They have to actually realize, "Am I dead? What is this?"
It can take a while. It took me what seemed like, 20, 30 minutes. It wasn't 20 minutes in our time, but it sure felt like that. And I had to reason through what is this that I'm experiencing? This isn't what I would have expected in surgery. This isn't what I would
This is my
expect.
surgical suite.
Right, it doesn't look like there's a doctor here or anything, and why am I standing up? Because I really probably should be paralyzed, and not able to stand. So, it does take a while to get your bearings in that it's really an expanded state of awareness. Our the way I kind of look at it for me is I had to get used to that really expanded that soul level of awareness again. You come into this body and your body and brain filters a lot of stuff out because we have to focus on this life. But then when you're out of it, it takes a while to get used to that expanded level of awareness again. And it's not just visual, it's everything.
It's
And
everything.
it's feeling love coming in, it's feeling peace coming in, it's feeling like you are loved beyond your capacity to understand it.
Okay, now that's a very common that's what everyone says without
Yeah.
exception.
Yep.
Every single person
Yeah.
says, "All of a sudden, I'm in this ocean of love," but it's not personal love, it's not romantic love, it's just pure love.
Yeah, and in fact, right now, as we're talking about it, I'm getting, God bumps all over me, and my head is just, like, reacting, and my whole body is reacting to that because it's once you're out of this body and in that state of expanded awareness and love, you can't really ever forget it when you come back here.
Mhm.
And most of us walk around like that every day. We have to really work on focusing in on a daily life. That's actually super tough to come back out of that state of love. It's universal God level agape love is really what it is, and it's entrancing. And it just sucks you in, and it's hard to give that up. And so it isn't just expanded awareness, it's expanded love. It's your expanded heart awareness too. So you kind of get pulled into that level of love and re-engaged with it, and then your heart expands, to kind of mirror what you're feeling around you. And it's really as you can tell, it's kind of tough to explain because
Well,
it's beyond words.
yeah. Well, and you know what else is very common, which is another thing that I thought was so intriguing about how you described it was that I didn't want to come back. How
Yeah.
many people said, "I did not want to leave this. Don't make me leave this."
Yeah, and, if you listen to some of my videos and the one I did with you, I actually kind of threw a temper tantrum when I was told to come back here. I did That's how much I didn't wanna come back to this, and to be really, it wasn't necessarily what was here. I was afraid of, the process of healing and healing my body. It was more of I didn't wanna be out of that state of love anymore. I didn't wanna be pulled away from that divine level of love, and put back on here where you can't feel that as readily. You can't, it's not as easy. You can still touch, you can still feel it.
Right.
But it's a little bit more difficult. And I swear, every near-death experiencer that I have spoken with, and it's a lot, every one of us has said the first thing that we do when we come back is we want to learn how to reconnect to that state of love. That's our main goal, is to figure out our way of reconnecting to that state of love.
Now, one of the it may be the most significant message that we could communicate in our class together, Nancy, is this plus this one, which is the struggles that I see with people that wear down their life are struggles about purpose and self-esteem and not being important and not having power. And inevitably, again, a part of the archetypal experience, the near-death archetypal experience, is the life review. And in every single case, people will comment about how being shown their life and every part of their life, every thought they've ever had, what they're shown are the tiniest things that they've done and how significant those acts of kindness were, excuse me, to strangers, that's what they're never shown their successes. They're never shown their awards. Oh, look at all the awards you've accomplished. They're never shown the big houses they bought. They're never shown any of their stuff, their stuffologists, their shopping cart full of things. Oh boy, look what you acquired. They're actually shown their acts of charity, who they cared for, especially if they didn't have an agenda, like spontaneously helping somebody on the street. All of that is recorded and noted, and those are the things that heaven cares about, which again brings us back to love.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't forget those little acts of kindness. It's not just outward to other people. Mm-hmm. This is one thing that a lot of folks miss, even near-death experiencers, is you are considered part of that sea of divine love. And so when you show kindness and compassion to yourself, it's the same as if you were showing it to other people as well. So that counts too. And that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about in what I teach, is because I see so much out there in this world of people not really liking themselves very much. And that's part of this whole, when we talk about being kind to others, but it's also being kind back to yourself.
And how afraid people are to do that.
Yeah.
That they feel that they haven't suffered enough to be kind to themselves.
And I have spoken with people who I would consider exceedingly spiritual, even people who are priests and nuns. And that's still one of their big hangups, is they don't, like you said, they don't feel like they deserve their own kindness.
Right.
They don't deserve their own love.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like a class in which we can reach people at this level of just the deeply human part of being deeply human. And how one woman had this near-death experience, and she came back and she became so aware of how fear-driven people were. And how unnecessary that fear was. And she said, if I could find a way to help people alleviate that fear. And then she heard a voice that said, why do you think you came back? Why do you think you came back? And all that can be accomplished, think of all that fear, all the damage fear does to create, that we've created things in life with fear, and to alleviate, like, what are you so afraid of? Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tell everybody, we put together 4 classes, although I wish it were 12. And the class is Sacred Guidance Shared Through the Near-Death Experience. And I'd like us to just describe, I'm like Nancy, to describe a little bit about each of the classes so you know what you're getting into. But how could you not take this class? How could they not take this class? The first class is the mystical experience of the near-death experience.
Yeah. So in this session, we're going to talk about, as Carolyn talked about, the archetype of the NDE. And one of the things that's fascinated both her and I is, why have these become so common? So we're going to talk about that as well. Like, why are these things so common now? It's not just medical science. There's a little breadcrumb there. There's a lot of other things going on that we're going to talk about that kind of bring us back to, why are these becoming so common right now? And then again, we'll talk about some of those love-based lessons that we just alluded to, and how those kind of tie and thread together amongst all these different NDEs. And part of that too is, again, when we talk about love, is how in the world do we play a part in this divine loving universe? And so where do we fit in? What are contracts, and what's our purpose here in coming into these lives? It's very important. You know, every student that I've ever had in person has asked me, what's my purpose? So we're going to
what's my purpose? What am I doing here? I mean, and can you just think of one thing that your teacher or your angel told you that you did not know before you had your near-death experience?
That, well, as long as we're talking about love, one of the big things that she mentioned right away, and it took me a while to really learn this, was that the structure of our universe, if you get down into the deep structure of the universe, is actually based on what we would call this divine love, or agape. It isn't just a feeling. It forms the structure of everything. So that's,
that was exactly, it is holy alchemy.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is holy alchemy.
It's a mind bender.
Right. It's a mystical reality, but it is hard to grapple with, because we like to hold things in our hand, right?
Yeah.
But you see, to me, that's why people are so afraid of love, because they know how powerful it is. Nobody's afraid of hate. Nobody's afraid of anger. You may be afraid of somebody's anger, but you're not afraid to be angry, and nobody has ever taken a workshop and said, Carolyn, I need a workshop on how to be angry or how to be resentful. No one has difficulty with negativity, because it just flies everywhere. But why do we have difficulty with love? Because we're born knowing it's transformational. Like, this stuff is power.
Yeah.
So what we spend our time doing is looking for all kinds of reasons not to love somebody, not to love them, because we know if this gets going, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah. It is.
Okay, class 2.
Okay, so class 2 is, we are going to take a little journey in this class and give you some ways to experience parts of the NDE and a life review for yourself. So I have actually never done this before in a class, taking people through aspects of an NDE in a guided kind of setting. It's going to be a guided visualization, and we're going to explore that for yourself. You're going to get a little bit of a taste of it and see for yourself what that feels like. So it's going to show you, and we're going to talk about that transformative power of that life review. And we'll kind of relive some of your key moments in your life, and just explore how you can really get more of a grasp about how those key moments play a part in where you are right now as a person, and how you can use those to transform your life.
But I think one of the most revealing parts of an experience like this is that in your near-death experience, like you shared with me a few times, and then with others in your videos, is that you were very dismissive of your younger sister when you were 17. And it would not perhaps have been something you thought about at all as the years of your life went by. But it was one of those molecule-sized experiences that come up on our board of review. And you then saw what you did, but then you became your sister.
Yeah.
And you felt the impact of what you did and how huge that was to her life. So, and what I have tried to emphasize with people again and again and again, but there's no way, words can only communicate so much, that every word we say packs a punch because every word is agape. Every word is creation itself. Every word is contains the universe. There's no way to explain this to anyone, which is why when you learn about the nature of life, you have to, without the capacity to have mystical imagination, to image a mystical universe, you can't possibly comprehend your mystical power.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I think this moment that we're alive, where we've never had more dangerous chaos in the world, but we've never had more mystical allies.
Yeah.
The invisible holy world is as active as the physical world,
And becoming more so in the physical.
and becoming more so. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Our third class is choices that matter and the power of prayer.
Yeah. So this was another big lesson for me during my NDE, and one that, I'd never really thought about. Now, I was actually a fairly spiritual kid, and I studied, ancient religions when I was in college. So I'm not completely unaware of religion, but what we're going to talk about in session 3 is something that I had never really run into in any of those studies. And really, it's about the real true power of prayer and why it's so important for us to continue that dialogue. And we're going to talk in this class about what prayer really is, and the different aspects of it, and just how powerful it is, and how important gratitude is. How does that fit in to this whole concept of prayer and love, divine love, and agape? And how does prayer and gratitude fit in with choice, and what really truly is the power of your choices? I had never really considered that before my NDE, but there's several different layers of this, and we're probably not going to have enough time in this class to dive into all of them, but we're going to certainly talk about some of the base layers of that, the power of choice, how it affects the physical world around you, but also it works on several other levels as well, not just the physical world. And that's the cool thing that I love to talk about.
Absolutely. I just wrote up a workshop, and I think it's for, I don't know, Santa Fe, or I don't know, someplace. It's either Santa Fe or Vancouver, one of the places that I teach it to every year, Sedona. But in it, I said, here, I'm going to give you a choice to change your life. $1 million, or you make the choice not to betray yourself again. Which one is actually the power choice? And I know for a fact 90% of people would take the $1 million, only to discover that they've spent the money and they're the same person.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who's wise, that says, you know what, I'm going to make the choice never to betray myself again. They've changed the universe and everything about, and they've changed their biology, and they've changed their health. They've changed the quality of their life. They've changed every opportunity that could come to them. Teaching this thrills me more than I can tell you.
Yeah.
It's
a big one.
It's
huge.
Gargantuan. Okay, our last class. See how much fun this is going to be, Nancy.
I can't wait.
Really. The last class is We Need Each Other, Making Oneness Work.
Yeah, this is another huge lesson that I had as well during my NDE. Now, as a physical scientist, I was a geologist and a biologist, kind of an ecologist really before my NDE. I was looking at big ecosystems. So I understood at the physical level what oneness meant at an ecological level. But I didn't realize that same, a kind of a similar view of oneness really exists at all levels of the universe. And that we're going to talk about this class is, what is that mystical layer of unity or oneness that ties us all together, really. And not just you and me, Carolyn, but everybody, everything, not just in this physical world, but also throughout the spiritual universe as well. And we're going to talk about some super practical ways to be loving and give your love to other people in this chaotic world, which then also kind of strengthens that unity that we have here, and that oneness that you have with other people. And along with that, how do you make your world a better place? Not just the world that you live in around you, your family, your friends, but how do you make the bigger world a better place?
I think of it as animating your internet.
Yeah.
Because it isn't, we have an internet that works just like the internet, which is where we got the idea for it anyway, because we are connected just
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the
well,
connections are powerful at that level. Oh, it's
I'm
amazing.
telling you, I'm, you know, eh, well, I'm not going to start that. I'll carry on about this in class, but honestly, I can't wait for this. And I hope all of you will join us. It's going to be a wonderful class, and you are going to be so inspired, but also empowered because you've joined us for 4 sessions. So thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.